Well, I think when you import criminal cartels that are stealing vehicles
Who's importing the criminal cartel?
with all the illegal immigrants.
Who's importing them?
Who brought all the illegal
Yeah, who's
immigrants?
importing them?
Who brought them into the state?
Yeah, who's doing that?
How'd they get here?
No, I'm asking you, you're my rep.
Yeah, I am your rep, and
So
I
you
would
tell me,
say,
you made the statement,
I-
they're importing criminal cartels, I'm fascinated. Who is doing it?
who is bringing them in? Well, when we have the governor declare that we are basically a sanctuary state, and when we have an AG that's not prosecuting criminal activity, and when we have law enforcement saying, well, we're not even going to arrest this because it's just going to get turned around. I mean, how did Colorado go up the charts in violent crime, and how did that go? That's the executive branch. That's the leadership that we had. That's who's made the state a sanctuary.
So
Now-
he's the one paying hardship.
Indirectly, probably.
I would say that if the outcome is obvious, the intent is inferred. If the outcome is obvious, the intent is inferred.
I'm gonna stop
If you bring in cartel members and they're stealing cars and then you're protecting them legally, that's something that you want to occur.
I would imagine that once you steal a car, you want to take it out of state quickly. The same thing with guns, firearms, anything illegal in that. You take it out as quickly as you can. And it gets very dicey when that starts to happen. These boxes can also be saleable, just like the cars, just like the guns. They can peddle them out of state.
Well, they're basically gift wrapped under the front seat, or now they're going to be someplace else. The lock boxes are a deterrent. They slow somebody down. But if somebody steals the car, they steal the lockbox with it. It doesn't really matter. So, so I think that's where we have a problem with. We have legislation that deals with the solution to high crime in Colorado is that we need to, their solution, the Democrat solution to the high crime, the high assault rates is to disarm law-abiding citizens. Now, and when we look at, say, gun-free zones, when we look at areas where these shootings occur, they occur in gun-free zones. So if your goal is then to create more gun-free zones, then what's going to happen with that? Well, if you create more gun-free zones, and gun-free zones are where mass shootings occur, well, it would appear to me that you want more gun-free zones. So anyways, we have that issue with the lock boxes in the cars. We put them in the cars. Legislation that made vehicles more profitable and less of a penalty, more of an incentive, then led to other problems. Instead of dealing with it, we create more legislation that further restricts the citizens of Colorado under the guise of dealing with crime.
Okay. Then we'll go on to,
Thank you,
Thank you, Ken.
Representative. Another bill that we want to just make you aware on your radar is Senate Bill 038, Wildlife Damage Protection of Personal Information. I know that you are all aware of the introduction of wolves. And the introduction of wolves has not had a good outcome for quite a few ranchers and farmers, in that not only is livestock being killed by the wolves, and it's also the ranchers and farmers' dogs are also getting taken. So anyway, the rancher that loses a steer has had years and years now of saying that they need to get compensated because they never asked for the wolves. The wolves will come. We don't need to truck them in and drop them off. They will come. They don't seem to respect the state borders, and they don't seem to know when they wander from Wyoming down to Colorado. You know, that's another situation all at all. But the fact that wolves have been introduced and they're not having a good outcome. So you are a rancher, and several of your steers have been killed by the incoming wolves. And so you want some compensation for that. Well, the issue then becomes, is it public information or not about who is what ranch, who person has lost and is getting compensation? And evidently there's been some backlash about people who are asking for the compensation, and so this was a law to protect their personal identity. And I've talked way too much on that bill. And if you want to know anything about it, I suggest that you do look up Senate Bill 00038 and read it for yourself. Thank you. The next bill we're going to talk about is also a Senate Bill 073.
And that actually was my bill, which I think was one of the best bills, but I'm a little biased. But so Senate Bill 073. What was happening is a lot of the bills that I put through were, veteran related, military related, just because that's 21 years retired military, so it's kind of my expertise area. And we had a problem with kids with disabilities that active duty kids, or children of active duty members, were having a hard time getting pre-enrolled in Colorado for some reason. It shouldn't be, but it was. The kids who were not disabled, they were getting in right away, hitting the ground running. But when it came to kids with disabilities, it was a huge struggle. And we wanted to make sure that they were not going to be treated, they're not treated any differently than regular kids, and that when they got here, their education was put first, that they too could hit the ground running. And so Senate Bill 73 made that happen. So now from now on, children with disabilities of active duty members, they can pre-enroll as soon as that active duty member gets their orders, which can be anywhere between 2 to 6 months in advance. Then that child, if they know where they're going to go, that child can then pre-enroll, get everything ready. The school can be better prepared for whatever disability they have, whether it's physical or a learning disability, anything like that. The school can better prepare, the parents can better prepare, and the kid can get going right away as soon as they get here. So that was one of our really good bills, and it passed hands down through the Senate, hands down, or I should say hands up through the House, and it was a really great bill that I think everyone was glad to get behind. So that was
that passed and was signed.
Yep, it's signed and everything.
And then the one that you talked about, Mary, did that also pass and was signed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys could sort of make sure we know.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it was a good bill, and it was signed right away. It was one of the bills that, because it was a complete 100% bipartisan bill, the governor signed it right away. It was something he felt that we really needed to have put in place ASAP. So.
Okay. Thank you. The last really good bill that we were able to be a part of authorship on and get it passed through both houses and a governor's signature is Senate Bill 200. And the title of that bill is Dyslexia Screening and READ Act Requirements. I am the ranking member on the Education Committee. I am not a prime sponsor on this bill, but I was very interested in seeing that it get through. We know that there are kids who really truly struggle, and learning to read and learning to do math are the two things that children have the greatest problems with if they have a learning disability. And it has taken many years for teachers and doctors to understand what is dyslexia, and it has a range of issues, whether you're looking at a letter upside down, backwards, however the kid sees it, it becomes a problem. So it has taken a long time for general education to really say, oh my gosh, yes, we are not doing the right thing for our kindergarten, first, second, and third grade kids. What this bill then just says there is a universal screening tool that every child will get this universal screening tool. If their results on their screening tool say they're good to go, there is no problems. But if there is a problem, they're in special help right away. No questions asked, and they are getting remediated and getting on the right track as fast as possible. And that's the essence of the bill. Yes, ma'am.
Just something to add that a couple, I have dyslexia and reading. And something that was helpful for me when I was teaching my daughter how to read was teach your child to read in 100 easy lessons. Very, very good comprehensive book, and it helped me with my reading too. So,
Yep.
We should all teach our children to read. All children should read.
Yes, yes, and thank you for sharing. So that is that bill. The next section, we have several bills that these people want. Okay.
I'll talk about the first one.
Okay. Want to talk about, they were honestly good bills that we authored, and we promoted and everything, but they didn't make it. So not that they are forever, ever dead, but they are for this session. And Representative Caldwell.
Thank you. Yep. So good bills that were defeated. The first one we have on this list is House Bill 1055. This is repeal firearm dealer requirements and state permit. So last year, let me set the stage here. So every gun dealer has to have an FFL, right? A federal firearms license. That's already a thing. That's already enforced by the federal government. For some reason, the state of Colorado last year decided, you know what? I think we need to have our own permitting process, a state process, and didn't really justify why they wanted to have this bill. However, this bill added so many employees, and I don't have the numbers here off the on the paper, but it added like 20 state employees at the cost of something like $10 million a year to enforce a permitting process that is already handled by the federal government, and there are no issues with it. There were no issues raised why we should have a state one, because it's filling some kind of gap that the federal license is not doing. That argument was never made. It was just in my opinion, again, this was a bill from last year, was it's just more red tape, more burdensome regulation on our local small business gun dealers. And so I believe this was Max Brooks's bill, House Bill 1055, was to repeal that, because as I'm sure everybody is aware of, we had a $1.2 billion budget deficit. And so we were looking to save money anywhere we could. And so from a lot of our standpoint, we said, hey, all these new laws you just passed in the last couple of years that we don't need to begin with, let's start with cutting those first before we start looking at education or our prison system or something like that. Let's cut these just ridiculous bills that were never needed in the first place. So we ran a bill. When I say we, a member of our caucus ran a bill to repeal that. And unfortunately, that was defeated. Another bill, since we're on kind of judicial. Yeah.
Do you happen to remember the bill number from last year that was passed?
That is a good question. I can get you that. Yeah, I'll get you that bill number. But yeah, House Bill 1055 from this year was to repeal that bill. Another bill that's not on this list, but I just want to mention it really quick because it's a good bill that died. So in the state of Colorado, 70% of child rapists get probation. I'm going to let you think about that statistic for a second. 70% of child rapists get child probation in the state of Colorado. And that's because child rape in Colorado is a felony 5 offense, right? Felony 5, the way the offenses work is the lower the number, the higher the sentencing. So a felony 1 is extremely serious, right? You're going away for decades. Felony 5, felony 4, felony 5 is very low. Felony 5 is probation eligible. And so it doesn't mean you necessarily have to get probation. But in Colorado, and what I think it's probably soft on crime judges putting down the sentences, but a felony 5, you could get 2 years in prison for a felony 5 for child rape. However, you could also get probation. And what we know is 70% of child rapists get probation. Not only that, the current law around child rape says that if you rape a child, as long as it's just one time, that's that felony 5. If you rape one child 2 times, then it gets elevated. However, you could rape one child, you could rape 10 children one time each and still qualify for probation. Now, are you going to get probation? Probably not, but it's still a felony 5, so it's still capped out around 2 years. So you could rape each and get probation in the state of Colorado. Representative Brandy Bradley ran a bill. Brandy Bradley's from Douglas County. She ran a bill, and it went through judiciary where Rebecca and I sit, and it said, no more of that. If you rape one child, it's mandatory prison. And that bill was defeated in Judiciary Committee. And again, I wish I could sit here and give you a really well thought out explanation of why that bill was killed. I can tell you the 4 Republicans on that committee voted in favor of that bill. But when I really try to get this across, there's a mindset in the House of Representatives, especially on Judiciary Committee, because there are some people on there that they feel like there's systemic problems in the judicial system and that we don't need more people in prison. I'm sorry, I disagree, especially in certain areas, especially when we're talking about child rape. We do need more child rapists in prison. We don't need them on probation where they can go and offend again. Yes, ma'am. I will get you that bill number. It was,
Also, I was just curious.
yeah.
Did it just say mandatory prison, or did it change it from felony 5 to, I don't know, felony 2?
Yeah, well,
Classified it.
yes, I think it raised it from a felony 5 to at least a felony 4, 3. I'll have to verify that,
We
but
don't have to do it.
yes. Yeah, and I apologize.
And they want to look it up.
It wasn't on this list. I just kind of threw it in there, so I don't have the bill number on top of my head. Yes, ma'am.
So just to bring some enlightenment on here, if you guys have not sat in and given testimony on some of these bills, I highly encourage that you do, because this is not the first time that we've been trying to protect children. There's also Rep. Bradley, she had done this the year before too, right?
Mhm.
Representative Scott Bottoms did also, as far as the sale of the child from prostitution. And the Democrats shot it down.
Yeah.
In fact, Representative Garcia, who's a Democrat,
It's not socialist.
oh my gosh. So she's the one that shot it down, also saying that even though she was raped, she would never want that on her rapist to be
Right.
put in prison. It's
Yeah.
stunning what these Democrats say. Your
Yeah.
mouth would drop. You would not believe it.
Yeah,
So please, give testimony. Go watch these bills.
yeah, especially in judiciary.
So,
Okay, Candy, you've had your hand up for a while. Thank you.
I'm going to throw another factor in here that we all need to be aware of. Yesterday, I believe it was, the grand jury indicted an illegal alien that had been deported and brought back to the United States. He has been running a sex ring and child pornography out of this country. That is part of our problem as well as bringing in illegals and being a sanctuary state.
And just real quick, House Bill 1073 is the bill that we're referring to increase the penalty for child rape. House Bill 25-1073. Nicholas, thank you.
One other question, maybe give us an idea of the process of communication between Republicans and Democrats.
Mhm.
What I want to know is, did any Republican ever ask these Democrats who oppose this bill how they would feel if their child had to suffer the penalties for a lack of a law against such a horrible act?
They don't have children.
so I'll add some information on this because I am on judiciary and I got through this and it was horrific. So part of the reason why that the bill and Rep. Caldwell said he didn't remember why they didn't before they killed the bill, why they did kill the bill. When I sat in there, I sat and I watched many of the witnesses and testimonies that came through. And some of the witnesses and the Democrat reps that killed the bill agreed with them that they felt that all a child rapist needs is just therapy. They said that it's unfair to the pedophile or the child rapist to penalize them even further because they then have to live for the rest of their lives that they hurt a child.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned that by putting them into jail, well, they might get raped.
Right.
So these are the things that we have to sit there and listen to. And Rep. Caldwell, bless his heart, he's always telling me, poker face, poker face, poker face. I don't have a poker face. When I hear that you're defending child rapist over a child, there's no face I have that I can hide.
Yeah.
So and I do try and that bill when it came through, even the faces of Rep. Bradley, she cried after that. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't understand. And honestly, I don't understand either. That was a bill, and it's not just that someone has hurt a child. If a person sexually molests, rapes a child just one time, they get probation. If they rape five-year-olds, they'll still just get probation. Let that sink in right now. So you could have a serial child rapist that only
After expiration.
Correct. So, and that's what she was trying to stop. And the minimum was 2 years in jail. Let's just start low. Let's just give them 2 years in jail. Something. Get them away from these kids. And they killed it anyways because it's unfair, what they said, to the pedophile.
Yeah.
They
Right.
protect the
I
criminal.
do remember that argument now, and I don't remember exactly who made it. It may have been Rep. Garcia, but it was if you put these child rapists in prison, then they're not actually getting the help they need, and being in prison is a violent place, and it may make them worse. And especially if they get raped, then they may be worse when they get out. If that doesn't make sense to you, I mean, join the party. Yeah, because it does not make sense to me either.
They're not really opposed to prison because they're always making more laws that lead to prison, mainly for law-abiding citizens. I mean, Tina Peters is in prison for a nonviolent crime, and apparently there's not enough room for violent sexual predators of children. So their priority is to protect the gaslight standard, but it's not like they're afraid of putting people in prison. They just don't want to put pedophiles in prison.
Ma'am in the back, you had your hand for a while. Thank you. Thank you for waiting.
Garcia and Senator Gonzalez are really close to what we're trying to abolish all treatment. They work closely with notification called Black and Pink. As you know, Garcia has her hands in a whole bunch of NGOs. It's just funneling money back and forth. The DSA is its own political party that is under the guise of the Democrats. And funny enough, they are a 501(c)(3). I just want to let you guys know if anybody wants to go into their tax records and basically report them for it, it's amazing because these people are just about making money. And with the trans things, they're pushing it because they have law firms, do the name changes, they're friends with the doctors. So it's all to take money from. They don't care about the people, they care about the money, and they really need to get past it.
Yeah, thank you. And so we do have multiple members on judiciary who are endorsed by the Democrat Socialists of America, the DSA. And if you look at their platform, it's defund the police, close down the prisons. And these people are on judiciary committee making laws or killing laws that have to do with criminal justice. And we wonder why we went from the number 3 most dangerous state to the number 2 most dangerous state. One more question on this one, and then I want to make sure we hit a couple more, and then we'll have time at the end for all the questions.
I just wanted to point out that the recidivism rate for sex offenders is so much higher than any other criminal.
Right.
And there's because treatment is not proven to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the biggest argument, I think, whatever bill you move forward next time, that's all you can
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and so that's a great point, recidivism. So one more bill, I'll make this very brief because it's not on this list. So I ran a bill that talked about no PR bonds, personal recognizance bonds. So a PR bond is you get arrested for a crime, the judge lets you out. It's cashless bail is what it is. So in Colorado, you can get PR bonds for violent crimes. You can commit a violent crime and go to jail and walk right out. You sign a piece of paper saying, yes, I'll show up to my next court date and I won't commit another crime until then. And you can walk right out of jail with no bond whatsoever. And so I ran a bill for repeat violent offenders. This was a Gabe Evans bill, now Congressman Gabe Evans, when he was a state rep. He ran it last year, I believe was the first year he ran it. So it died in committee. So I ran it this year. And what it says is, if you've been convicted of a violent in the last 2 years, or you're pending a violent crime charges, and you get arrested for a violent crime, you can't get a PR bond. And that bill was killed. And the argument was basically what his argument was. And so by that standard, if I went and murdered somebody and I lived under his perfect society, if I went and murdered somebody, I could just walk right out of jail until 8 months from now because the courts are backed up. And we use bond for a reason, because the Boulder attacker that just happened, he had like a $10 million bond. He can't afford that. And that's good he can't afford that, because we don't want him out walking around, because what else is he going to do while he's waiting for his trial date, right? We use bond for that reason a lot of times. And so the fact that every single member on judiciary, every single Democrat member does not believe in bond at all, I don't think that problem's going to get fixed in the near future, because my bill was simple. Hey, if you're a repeat violent offender, you should not just be able to walk out of jail with no bond. You should stay in there until your court date. And that died, unfortunately. So I want to make sure we get through these bills, and then we'll have more time to talk about more bills.
So the next good bill that was killed by the Democrat majority was HB 25-1257. That was my bill. And it was a bill that I really took to heart. And when it was killed, it upset me a little bit. Basically, it's a relinquishment of a child, relinquishment of a child of newborn safety devices. The Democrats had a big problem with the newborn safety devices. So I said, okay, I'm here to help, to work together. So I took that portion out. But just so you know, in the state of Colorado, if a mother gives birth and she decides that she just doesn't want to, whatever, station, a hospital, different location, relinquish her child. No problem. No penalties. She can just relinquish her child. But the problem is right now with the current bill or law, you only have 72 hours after you've given birth. Now, if any of you have given birth, because I know I have, 72 hours, you're just not yourself. You could still be in the hospital. Your hormones are raging. This is a huge decision. And to make it within I can't even pick out a car or carpet in 72 hours. Let alone relinquish my child. So I took out the newborn safety devices, because that was a concept that they just couldn't get. But so I said, okay, well, how about we just make it to where they just have 30 days? Let's give them 30 days to make this huge decision. And, I had a lot of testimony. I had a lot of witnesses that came and testified for it. I had doctors, I had social workers, I had, you name it. If they dealt in the child realm and protecting them and caring for them, they were there. They testified. The other side, I say the other side because there is a couple groups in Colorado that are so hell-bent on killing Republican bills, they can't see straight. So one of them came and they said, well, it's anti-abortion. And I'm like, pardon? And I said, the baby's already born. It's done deal. It's here. And they said, well, if a mother thinks or knows she might have another option after she gives birth, then she may not abort it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, That's probably one of the most horrific things I've ever heard. So you would rather have the abortion than actually a mother giving it. And so you know, Safe Haven has readily adoptive parents waiting. They've been trained. They're ready to go. They've background checks, everything, ready to take that baby, no matter what. But that was one of the arguments they had. And then afterwards, after they killed the bill, a couple of the Democrat reps came to another, not myself, but another. This is in Health and Human Services. Another Republican rep and said, you know, we really liked Kelsey's bill. And so this other rep's like, well, why did you kill it then? Why did you vote no? Why didn't you, you know? And they said, well, because we were told to. Democrat leadership.
Leadership, okay.
So that's also another thing that we're facing as Republicans in there. We could have we could do the best bill that solves world peace. And if Democrat leadership tells them to kill it, they will kill it. It doesn't matter. So those are kind of the things that we're working through. We're trying to break through, and we are trying to work with the other side. But when the other side is being dictated to follow a certain agenda, that's hard to break through. So, yes, Shannon.
The bill that you brought was actually killed by an organization that Garcia is a sitting board member.
Yeah.
Elephant Circle.
Yeah.
The other group that protested against it was Colorado Opportunity for Latino Reproductive Rights or something similar to that, which Garcia also has been tied to. So basically, two organizations that Garcia was tied to killed Kelsey's bill by Kelsey having doctors, psychiatrists, healthcare workers, and multiple other people, like dozens of others. So, yes,
Yeah.
Garcia
Thank
is basically evil. She doesn't right here to call her out.
Doesn't Garcia have her own nonprofit?
That's Elephant Circle.
That's Elephant Circle. That's the one. And actually, she makes quite a bit of money off of that one.
And she pays her
And
parents.
she pays her parents.
And her wife. They're all paid by, and they get government grants.
A lot of money.
So
So,
she's pretty much just running her
Isn't
business out of
Isn't
there.
that, like, from the bill that she's staffing benefit that nonprofit, correct? Well, then that's illegal.
Yeah.
It's
the way they go about
never
it,
for-
government, I think they are looking into her and looking into that.
She has top cover.
Yeah.
She's- So on the fetal harvesting industry with that protecting, like one of the bills, I think it was 083 towards the end that was in support of I think it was 79, which said that it was, making feticide, actually abortion, not feticide, but making it a constitutional right. It said that it would have no fiscal impact on the state. Well, the state has, unless, and then if you go down, it says, unless the state decides to pass another law. And that was done by the Speaker of the House, and that commits the state of Colorado to unlimited feticide and some of these surgeries are $25,000 to $30,000. The dismemberment of a preborn human, late-term preborn human, is $25,000 to $35,000 a piece, and that was something that was protected. So there's no citizenship requirement. So this is just basically making Colorado the fetal harvesting capital of really the world. But when you look at the other things around this, when you look at this industry, Scott Bottoms had a bill to just say, hey, we regulate things like dog groomers, nail salons. How about, when you're talking about late-term fetal harvesting, you're talking about no kidding surgeries, and and they said, so we should just have some regulation. We should track the mortality statistics of these procedures. We should have somebody go in and check these facilities to make sure that they are, no kidding, medical facilities and they meet all the requirements of, say, a dog grooming salon or a nail salon. And the Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger's rep, was there and basically said, if you keep maternal mortality statistics on these procedures, it will shut us down and we won't be able to provide this life-saving procedure. So consider that they won't be able to provide life-saving procedures if mortality statistics are kept, or if there is regulation of their facilities. So they do understand the concept of shall not be infringed, because when we're talking about bills like 003, they clearly do not get the shall not be infringed, but any time that there might be some inroad on the fetal harvesting, they will allow none of it. It is very profitable for them, and it funds their campaigns. So yes, sir.
Is IVF bedicide?
IVF?
Yeah, that's.
No.
You're my representative, so I wonder where you're coming from. Bedicide.
No,
Feticide? If you're the killing of a fetus is feticide,
So
yeah.
This IVF bedicide.
IVF is something entirely different. I mean, are you talking about,
I'm just wondering.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's life or not.
it's life or it's not.
So
There you go. Are you talking about a fetus, or are you
Yeah,
talking
IVF
about
is a bedicide.
IVF there's ways to do IVF without creating a fetus that is then harvested. I mean,
In absolute terms, I'm just wondering where you're coming from.
I'm coming from the absolute
So
terms.
IVF would be bedicide. I think.
Well, it depends on how you're doing IVF. You're talking very broad.
Yeah.
You're talking about an impregnation method. IVF is creating life.
Creating life.
IVF is creating life. A feticide
But what
is,
happens to the ones they throw out later?
well, that's a problem. That's something that's not necessarily to do.
One way or the other, so.
Very good. I agree.
Sorry.
So I was just wondering what your thoughts were.
Well, you're talking about two different things. So
Not really.
you're talking about two different things. We can talk more about it afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, listen, I want to make sure we keep rolling. April, you had your hand up a while back. Okay.
Make it through a pregnancy, they're getting rid of the ones, they want to implant something that will not live. Why would you put an egg into a female that is then going to just be miscarried? You don't do that. So they test that.
All right, April, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we get through all the bills in time. Yes.
The fetal harvesting tax funded, and then also the second one is, Democrats are super unified in how they vote. Are Republicans that unified? Should they be that unified? And the pros and cons to that if they did unify as tightly as the Democrats did.
Fetal harvesting is tax funded. It is taxpayer funded. 08, I think it's 083 made sure of that. The Democrats are very aligned in that they are told how to vote, as we've had people tell us that we would like to vote differently, but we're told otherwise. I don't think that the Republicans are not that in lockstep with each other. We vote against each other's bills for various reasons, and I don't think that would actually be a healthy thing. I think we need to have that. I think we need to have the debate between. We should have, we can have a difference of opinion on a bill. I mean, Jarvis and I can differ on a bill. I mean, I'd be right, but Jarvis and I can differ, and I can respect his opinion, and we can both learn from each other.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the big issue bills, like the ones we're talking about right now, I don't know if we differ at all. I think we're pretty lockstep in a lot of those bills. Like one of the bills we're going to talk about soon, like Senate Bill 3. I mean, nobody's voting differently on that. Like in our caucus, it's actually the other side of the aisle that where there's people who split off. Okay, I want to make sure we get the.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yes, please.
And when it comes to like the Constitution, I think when you say we're locked up, we are locked up when it comes to the Constitution. But if anyone cares, and I'll challenge you all, if you want to go through all the videos, but Colorado is Colorado Channel on YouTube. You can go and you can watch us in the well fighting and arguing every single day that we're in session, and count. You can probably count on less than two hands. Probably of the Democrats who are actually up there either speaking for, against, or any debate. You'll see Republican, and you will not see the Democrats. And the reason why, they've been told not to. So if you really have to wonder who actually is running the Democrat Party? Who actually is representing the people? Because I know I go up and when I argue, and I argue against Republican bills and all the bills, if it's a good one, or I'll speak for it. But I have my district in mind every single time. Who's representing your districts? If your person is not up in the well, actually talking and saying either good or bad or whatever it is, representing you, I would ask them why. Why did you sit on your butt for 4 months that I paid you through my tax dollars to go up there and fight or say something or represent me, and you didn't say a single word? Ask them why. I challenge you all. And you can watch go to Colorado Channel on YouTube. You can watch all of it. So, and I would like to see the committees. They already do the video for the committees. They just don't publish it. So I would like to see that published. But anyway, yes, Linda.
So, they do the committee's audio.
Yeah.
Just audio, but video is necessary.
I highly encourage you to go back. But in regards to the Constitution, freedom of speech, and what Representative Graff was saying about being able to debate, the Democrats have shut down debate multiple times.
Yeah.
Shut me
They do
down.
not want to debate.
Right.
And in fact, whenever we are able to get a little bit of discussion in, if you guys put in amendments to some of these horrible bills, trying to temper them down, the Democrats will come up and say, I vote no. They don't even engage. They don't even say why.
Right.
Yeah, they'll just say, I asked for no vote.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. I
Yeah,
cannot-
it's frustrating.
I
And it's like,
didn't
go
ask
lie.
anything else for this, so just vote no.
Yeah, if you want a good idea on what the bill is really about, a good way to do it is to go through the amendments and see where we've put forward amendments to make a bill less bad. One I was going through the other day was 1010, which was presumably it was on price gouging. Now, typically what a bill says it is, it ain't. So that's, and 1010 is one that's a really good example in that I think its primary purpose, and talking to the bill sponsor, that was put in by the governor, but basically expands the definition of disaster. It's ostensibly about stopping price gouging, which is a 10% increase in the case of a disaster, which has some market problems that just exacerbate the disaster itself. But it was really more about making the governor to be the disaster czar, allowing him to make the declaration and expanding the even like market disruptions, a market disruption or an economic disruption that might happen, a pandemic that might happen or is happening. It just puts the governor in charge of all this. So some of the things around this are like, well, what about tariffs? Because tariffs would normally be paid by those countries that are being exploiting lax environmental and lax human trafficking or profiteering off of slavery like China, and making those businesses pay the tariffs. Well, the way this bill is structured, the amendment tried to prevent that. That amendment was shut down. So that will make sure that the brunt is borne by businesses in Colorado. Others would be things like, well, how about in a disaster, we just stop taxes and fees on all products? And that would encourage the government to cut the disaster, and that would also allow for more of a market. Nope, we're not going to do that either. Going to make sure that that all of the burden is borne by the businesses of Colorado in the case of disaster. John Jason.
Yeah, and contrary to the Democrats who vote party line, the Republicans don't always vote the same way. One of the most publicized bill was Senate Bill 86. Representative Kelty and DeGraff, you guys voted no. Representative Bradfield and Caldwell, you guys voted yes.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk a little bit about why you chose to vote the way that you did on that bill?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Know what bill that is?
Yeah, so Senate Bill 86, this was a very controversial bill. It's a bill that I spent many, many hours talking with our district attorney, Michael Allen. So first, let's kind of set the landscape. Social media is the new marketplace for buying drugs and committing crimes. All right. So back when I was a kid, not that I was doing this, but when I was a kid, if you wanted to buy drugs or you wanted to buy an illegal gun or something like that, what you would have to do is you'd have to either know somebody or you'd go to, quote, the bad part of town to find a drug dealer to do that. Today, you go on Snapchat, and the reason I use Snapchat is because that's what apparently all the kids are using to buy drugs, because it deletes the messages. So a kid will go on Snapchat. Look, I'm almost 40 years old. I don't know the ins and outs of some of the social media on how they do this stuff, but apparently it's very easy to find people selling drugs. I have seen it on Instagram, people selling pills openly. And when I went to the police, which is a few years after I'd seen these posts, and I said, hey, I saw people selling fentanyl on Instagram. And my first thought was that's a trap. Like, of course the police would post a picture of fentanyl pills and say, hey, direct message me and I'll come meet you anywhere in Colorado Springs, right? And I'm like, of course that's the police. Well, now that I know the police and I know the DA and I know the sheriff, when I talked about this with them, they're like, that's not us. Those are just people openly selling drugs on Instagram. So Snapchat is apparently the biggest purveyor of this. So the problem that we run into is someone sells drugs and they'll advertise it as, I don't know if OxyContin's even still a thing, Percocets or something like that. And a kid will go buy it and then they'll die from it because it'll be straight fentanyl. Well, the parent gets the phone and the parent says, like, I see the message or the account that sold my kids these deadly drugs. They bring it to the police because the police are now investigating it. The police send a subpoena to Snapchat, to Meta, to Twitter, to whoever, and they say, hey, we need the information for this account because this account sold drugs that killed somebody. Maybe they get a response 3 months from now. Maybe they get a response 4 months from now. Maybe they don't get a response at all. But now if I was selling drugs out of my personal business or out of my home and I got a subpoena, I would have to respond to it like that. The social media companies are big and powerful, and a lot of times they don't even respond to these subpoenas. And that's a problem that the DAs wanted to address. And so all 23 DAs are on board with Senate Bill 86. And I understand there's a lot of controversy, and I've had those discussions with the bill sponsors. And I said, listen, if you're going to bring this bill back next year, here's the things you need to take out of it. There was a controversial piece in there that said, if the account is reported, so say the DAs find this account and this account sold drugs to a kid and the kid died. Well, we don't want that account to stay up because they're going to keep using that account to keep selling drugs to kids. And we already know that it's a problem because a kid died from it. So what became controversial is in that bill, in Senate Bill 86, if the police report to the social media company and say this account is selling drugs to kids, you need to remove this account like immediately. They would have 24 hours to remove that account. Now, I think that is a good thing. And I think most people would agree that's a good thing. I think a lot of the concern, and I understand this concern, is that people believe that it will become rubber stamped and it will be abused. So I see somebody, shooting a gun at a target range on Facebook. I'm going to report that account. And because now social media companies are risk averse and they're scared of not banning that account within 24 hours, they just automatically ban it. And then you get permanently banned and you did nothing wrong, but because you got reported. So there were issues with the bill. You're right. I mean, here's the thing is, I don't know when social media companies became the good guys. This bill, they hated this bill and they spent a lot to defeat this bill. So and I'm not saying if you voted yes on, or if you voted no on it, you think they're good guys. I'm not saying that. But my perspective and my approach was social media companies are not doing enough to stop human trafficking, selling drugs, and selling illegal firearms. I want to be clear. They already don't let you sell legal media. This was about illegal firearms. So again, all 23 district attorneys were on board. I spent many, many hours talking with Michael Allen about this, our district attorney. They were extremely supportive of it. One of my constituents in Monument, he lost both of his sons on the same day because they bought pills that they thought, look, kids make mistakes. A lot of kids make mistakes. Unfortunately, some of the mistakes that you make, you don't get to learn your lesson because you die. And so I have a constituent named Matt. He's featured in a documentary that you can find online called Devastated. He lives in Monument. His two sons bought what they thought was a I think it was a Valium. They bought a Valium. It was completely laced with fentanyl. It was not a Valium at all. It was a pill. And he went to go wake his kids up the next morning, and he found one dead. He went to the next room to wake him up. He was dead too. His other son was dead. He lost both of his sons from the same pill. They split one pill, and they both died from it. And he was kind of the face of this bill, pushing it. And so I was a very strong supporter of it. Again, it's a very serious issue that we're trying to address. Recommendation to the bill sponsors was, if you're going to bring this bill back next year, get rid of a lot of the ban, if you report it, you have 24 hours to remove it. I said, honestly, remove the illegal gun piece for now, because there was a lot of people that felt like this was an attack on the Second Amendment. This was specifically about illegal firearms. You already can't sell legal firearms on Facebook or Meta or Instagram or anything. That's already a thing. But I said, just remove that piece, because they already don't allow gun sales. Make it about drugs and human trafficking, and just make the bill simplified. Say, if you are a social media company and we send you a subpoena, you have 72 hours to respond. That's the whole bill. It's a one-page bill. We send you a subpoena, you have 72 hours to get us the information for that account, because we're sending you a subpoena because we believe that account is human trafficking or selling drugs. Make it simple. It got super technical. It got very long. There's a lot of technical stuff that I don't even understand about how algorithms and things work. Make it simple. So I think it does come back next year. It did pass. However, we didn't have enough to do the veto override. So that's a very long-winded response. I think the point you could take away is Republicans do split on issues, but I like to think that we're very well thought out in our reasonings why. We are not like go along to get along. I'm going to vote yes on something even though I disagree with it, just because I don't want to upset anybody.
So what did you vote for? I mean, what was the one reason you could say why you voted the way you voted?
Well, I feel like I just explained that, but the reason was we have a problem. Social media companies receive subpoenas, and a lot of times they don't even respond to the subpoenas. But now, if you're a mom and pop store and you get a subpoena, you have to respond to it. If you're brick and mortar, social media companies are big and powerful, and they kind of do what they want. And we have a real problem with them not responding to subpoenas when kids die of drug overdoses that they buy on their platforms, or human trafficking, other issues like that. So that's why I was a yes, because a lot of our law enforcement wanted it.
So I'm gonna.
I want to make sure we move on.
I just was gonna, because I was a no on it originally.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Jason asked.
I was singled out with
Sorry about
Caldwell
that, Mary.
as voting for, so I have a chance to respond to you. I can't tell you the amount of email and phone messages that I got from constituents about this bill, and they were very concerned. So, I took that to heart. Number two, my second reason for voting for this bill is I knew it wasn't perfect, but we have to start someplace. And this was someplace. Knowing that there is going to be something better coming down, but we had to have some statement and somewhere to start. And so that's why I voted yes, and to answer your question. Okay? Can we go on to another bill, or do you want to?
Go ahead.
Why now?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, just looking at it, and Jarvis actually covered a lot, and I've appreciated, I've learned from the conversations that I've had with Jarvis, and I appreciate and that's why I don't think it's a good thing for us to be in lockstep on these bills. I think having that friction is what I think is a good thing. Heresy, I'm not calling that heresy. I'm just, in theologically, heresy has a value in making you defend your position. So we have these disagreements, and that's good. Just pulling up the bill and had to think about, this is one of 700 and some bills in a year, so they get a little bit muddy. But this is 23 pages long, and a lot of the bill was like, well, if you don't vote for this, you're voting for not having, that these media companies don't need to respond to a subpoena. It's like, well, like Jarvis said, let's make a bill that is single subject that deals with that. There was a lot of stuff in there about tracking age, tracking, like maintaining all kinds of data, make sure, having the media. There's so much in there. There's having all of these demographic things reported and saved and maintained, and so there was so it is a real problem. It's not a matter that it's not a real problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. But we also, because fentanyl is a if you listen to the Patel on his interviews, fentanyl is being used in asymmetric warfare against the United States. It is a way to kill people in the United States, whether it's precursors, whether it's whatever. This is a legitimate problem. There's a massive industry behind it. Whether they make money on it or not, it is an attack on the United States and the youth of our country. And it's not unintentional that they're being put in things like Valium and gummy bears and, things that will devastate families, kill kids and devastate families. So this is a real problem, and this is a way to deal with it. Now, my perspective on it was that it was not that I think there was a lot of overreach in there in the demographics that are kept. When we seem to be turning a blind eye to fentanyl and how it's getting into the country, it doesn't seem like that's going to be, we have another law that's being, we really have a lot of the laws that are in place already that are not being enforced that would stop these problems. And then if we have more laws that are not being enforced, but then can be, a certain aspect of that bill can be weaponized against somebody else on either their media platform or whatever, then for me, I didn't see the value in what was going to be accomplished versus the risk of what could be done to citizens. So, with the First Amendment, the values, they're only values until you trade them for something that you value more. If you value safety and security over your rights, you're going to lose both. But so that's not to detract from what Jarvis is saying. It's just we came down on different sides of the issue. Yes, there was a lot of support behind it. There was a lot of opposition to it. I can see both sides. I think 23 pages and the murkiness with how it's written and how it can be twisted. That's why we need to have more debate on the bill. That's why we need to have more conversation. That's why we need to not do 700 bills in a year, where the idea is that we just need to rubber stamp them because we got to get the solution out. Because we started off this year with multiple bills that, we need to fix what we didn't, because we didn't listen to you last year on these amendments. Now we need to do this crisis fix before something really bad happens. And, a bill like this, probably should have been something that took, it needs to be addressed, and it probably should have taken weeks, if not months, to address entirely. That, we'd get all of the ideas in on it and address the actual concerns, not just say, well, there's a problem, we need to move it on. So even in that sense, that's a reason to vote for me to vote against it.
So, and I'll just take, I promised Mary only 2 minutes, but I just wanted to say something about this bill. So this bill was hard, and so just so everyone knows, I have all these binders here, this one included, these are all the bills that we had to go through in just 4 months. So, I just want people to understand, you think, 700 bills. This is what it looks like. And these are 5-inch binders, and there's 24 binders of those. So in Senate Bill 086, I had yes, I had no, I had yes, I had no. You look at my notes on here, I'm like, I wasn't sure. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to ask my constituents what they want. Because this is too much, this is too big of a bill for me to just guess what they want. So I'm just going to, and I went door knocking. I'm not sure, and actually I was told that usually reps don't usually do that in between, when they're trying to get elected. But for me, it's better to ground myself and find out what they want. I know what I want. And I thought for sure they were going to say yes. I thought for sure they're going to say, yes, we want this bill. Democrat, Independent, Republican, across the board. I saw people walking their dog on the street. They're like, "Who is this lady?" You know, I mean, I probably look like those stalking people, like, "Hey, hey," you know. And across the board, everyone said no.